Welcome back to another episode of Bum with a Wrench. I'm your host Daniel, and today we're back on the 1963 Ford Fairlane 500 installing the Dakota Digital gauges. So just kind of got here this morning, taking a look at everything, just kind of going over removing the gauge cluster. So that's where we're going to start. I'm simply just going to take the old gauges out. I'll mount the new gauges in the bezel. I won't be putting that back in the car. That'll be the last piece that actually goes back into the car, but we can see the gauges in the bezel with it out of the car. So give me a couple minutes. Let me get this cluster out, and we'll see what it looks like with gauges in it. All right, so this is all the stuff that you get. This is their Dakota Digital sensor package. So it's got the, 4 different sensors for your gas voltage, oil pressure, and temperature. RPM just comes off of the coil, and then speed is going to come off of this little thing right here that you drop in the transmission. That's your network cable to connect this box with those gauges. And so you can see right on here, it's pretty simple, really straightforward. So, and of course it comes with some detailed directions on how to install it. So real easy. This is something that any do it at home guy can do in his driveway, really on a Saturday. So it's not that difficult. Let me get a towel so I don't put those gauges down on their face. Let's get in here and take out some screws. Looks like somebody's already been in here. No big deal, because we're not going to be using any of that anymore. The only thing we're trying to get out of here is just that plastic face on the front. What's you guys' opinion on the Dakota Digital? Do you like them? Do you only like them in certain projects? Is it something you could see putting in all of your hot rods, or is there another gauge company that you like doing? I'm always open to hear other people's thoughts and opinions on stuff because, you know, maybe there's something out there that I'm unaware of that's really cool. And I've yet to find it. One thing I really like about the Dakota Digital gauges is the quality of the product. It's not just, you know, like a bunch of circle autometer gauges in on a bracket. There we go. That's all the screws. So there's your gauges. And so, pretty simple. Obviously your idiot lights are just light bulbs that stick through. And again, that's going to tell you right, left, turn signals, generator, and oil if you have no oil pressure. And then this plastic face sits on top of that. And so that's how they achieve that kind of three-dimensional look there. You know, with the gauge behind, and it's really, really pretty cool. It'd be neat if we could, you know, kind of mount that on there like that for the. See, if Dakota Digital did something like that for the Speedo, I think that would actually be really cool. You know, they could even do something similar on the gauge side and really on the tack, do the whole thing in kind of a retro style. That's the one thing that I was talking about with Dakota Digital. They could do something a little bit more retro and not make it so, or at least give you the option maybe. I mean, I would think doing the Speedo like this would only be a calibration issue with the needle. Same with the tack and all the four other gauges. So if they did like a, you know, they removed the back right there, did like an overlay like this. Or even just kind of put these on the back side, you know, this style. But yeah, I don't know. You know, you can't complain too much. Maybe they'll come out with something in the future. And, you know, Dakota Digital, if you're watching this, you know, if you want to work with me on engineering a kind of a retro gauge for some cars, you know, give me a call. So this thing is pretty hammered. I think what I'm going to try and do is I have a little bit of Neverdol. I think I'm going to get a little Neverdol, and in a spot that's not very noticeable, I'm going to see if I can just kind of clean up some of this and see. You always want to start in a spot where you're not going to notice in case it does something funny that you don't want it to do. So if you've never used Neverdol, it's just a little bit of, it's like cotton with some diesel fuel and wax. And that's not exactly what it is, but that's what it seems like at least. So you just take a little chunk. We're gonna go down here at the bottom, and I'm just gonna lightly wipe. Let's see what it does. See if maybe we can clean these up a bit. As long as you don't see anything crazy happening, chrome falling off, you know, plastic evaporating in front of your face, you know, you can work on a little larger area. This is kind of like polishing a car, you know. Just kind of want to work it in, scrub off any of the dirt. Let me grab another rag and we'll see if we can wipe that off and see what it looks like. All right, let's see. There we go. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. It's not perfect, but you know, looks pretty nice. So let's see if we can clean up some more of this before we just go putting this thing back together. Oh, there's that dryer again. It's funny when I'm working in the shop with people that don't really aren't really around here all that much. I'll be standing over there working on the bench over by the compressor, and that dryer will pop off, and they just about jump out of their shoes. It's not that loud, but when you're not expecting it, it'll definitely catch you off guard. So this is looking pretty good. Might even be able to clean up some of this silver on the inside too. Let's see. Let's see what that looks like. Oh yeah. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. Kind of like a magic eraser. Stuff works pretty good. Doesn't really fix everything, but it'll clean it up better than it was. I'm sure the owner is probably gonna put a new gauge bezel, which after I get this installed, it'll be very easy to replace that, because I'm sure you saw me struggling a little bit with the original one because I had all the connections and stuff in the back. But with this new one, it's only that network cable, so you can pop this thing out super simple and easy, and you could replace this super fast. But for now, let's just clean it up so it looks a little better. Go. Wipe down in here. Everdol is pretty cool if you've never used it before. Use it on some trim on your car. Those grills and bumpers, real chrome, works great on that. Everdol, some good stuff. Obviously, you can see it does, does okay on this. This thing's pretty hammered, so it's not gonna look brand new. Even though this car has super low miles on it, the sun still takes its toll on parts. Even though you're not driving it, the sun's still hitting it. So there we go. Yeah, that looks 3% better. So just didn't want to put it back in there without at least wiping this thing off. Like I said, he's probably going to source a new one. It's just plastic. There's really nothing to this. Hopefully he can find an NOS one, because what I've found is that these reproduction pieces, they don't look right. I did a 65 GTO recently, and we did the grill was pretty, the original grill in the car was pretty hammered. And there's quite a few parts for that car that you just can't find anymore. but I redid the center console, which is impossible to find. I did the back trim piece across the trunk, which is an extremely rare piece. And I did the grill inserts. And the new ones that I got from Original Parts Group were plastic, which I was kind of sad because when I saw them on Original Parts Group, I thought, oh, that is awesome. I need new gauges. And then I get them and they're all plastic. But it looked better. The plastic ones looked better than the really bad ones that I had. So, and I needed to get that car finished. Okay, that's it. Just lay it in place. Do they give me new screws or do I gotta use the old ones? Because these look really long. I'm thinking that they probably gave me new ones because there's no way those short screws are gonna go through there. Yeah, here we go. There's some long screws. Okay. I know when I think the last one I did was a 65 GTO, and I did the Dakota Digital in them. I think they wanted you to use the original screws. And the person that had originally done that car had used, just Home Depot screws, kind of that same thing that I'm battling with the 7-liter. And of course, when you got no time and you got to get the car done for an auction, I didn't have time to source all the right hardware. And so I kind of got stuck, just kind of making do with what I had. And I hate doing that because that next guy's going to come along and go, what the heck were they thinking? Why did they do this? And the answer is I did that because I was out of time. And you gotta get the car on a trailer to go to an auction. You gotta get it done, It's like we always make jokes on the those TV shows, the Discovery Channel, and those type of shows where it's oh, we gotta finish this car in a week, otherwise we're gonna lose the shop. It's always the standing joke around here. Like they try to create so much drama when there was no need for the drama. I have to admit though, watching those what was the motorcycle guys? Anyways, those guys were kind of fun to watch, but it was the same antics over and over and over again, so it did get boring pretty quick. And then of course, 3 or 4 seasons or however long it lasted, people aren't gonna just continue to watch you fighting and breaking doors all the time. Eventually they're gonna get tired of seeing it. West Coast Choppers, that's what the name of that show was. It was a while ago though. And Jesse James had his show. I think that was like the kind of beginning of that style of TV. But there you go. That's what it looks like. I'd say, it looks pretty nice. A little bit of something on there. There we go. Not bad. Not bad at all. See if that can clean up a little bit more. Yeah, that plastic chrome, when it deteriorates, man, it just goes. There's nothing you can do. There's no cleaning it. It just kind of disappears. But yeah, so that's what we got. I think it looks nice. So on this car, it's going to be cool because it's going to be that retro mod style. So now that we're done with this, let me run through let me run through the directions, look at the installation kit, see what I got to do, and then I'll get you in there to kind of show you how I'm going to tackle the rest of this, which again is easy. It's not that hard. So, but let me get organized, and then I'll be right back with you. All right. So we got the gauges set in the bezel, and now we're back here in the car, and now's the fun part. So at this point, you got two options. You need to make a decision what you want to do. You can either take all the circuits that you don't need and separate them out of the harness, wind them up, zip tie them, put them in the back somewhere where you don't see them. You're going to probably want to pull all the light bulbs out of the sockets so that you don't have a glowing light there behind your dash. Or maybe you want some light shining down on your feet. It's good for that. But so your two options are isolating all the circuits that you don't need, winding those up, zip tie them, tape them, whatever, put them up in the back. I would recommend a cloth tape so that you can kind of isolate them and they won't rattle against the body of the car. Or you can do the option that I'm going to do, which is actually to remove the entire harness out of the dashboard, and I'm going to isolate each circuit that I don't need and remove it out of the harness. It makes for a cleaner harness. It'll look a lot nicer. That way when you're up in there and you got to do some work to it, it's not going to be this big rat's nest worth of wires. So let me get you in here and I'll kind of show you real quick before my battery dies on my mic. I can show you what I got going on here. So I've pulled, drop the camera. So I pulled all the circuits out, and I've got them just out right here. And so it was at this point, just kind of going through, looking at all the different circuits, looking to see what I got. All right, I guess I can edit that part out. My microphone died, so it's okay. I'm just on the mic on the mod for the GoPro. So I wanted to go over this because this is kind of an important step. So when I was talking to the owner, I gave him both options. I told him, hey, look, either we can isolate the circuits, put them in the back, or either that, or I can remove them all out of the vehicle altogether. He picked to remove them all out of the vehicle because he's not going to go back to standard gauges. Now, if you did do that and you wanted to go back to standard gauges, all you'd have to do is just replace the harness. I'm going to see if there's a way I can do it without hurting the harness to where maybe you could go back and put the circuits in if you wanted to. I don't know. I need to evaluate it once I get it out of the car. But that's kind of the decision you got to make at this point in the build, what you want to do, if you're ever going to go back to regular gauges, or if you want to just eliminate all the circuits that you don't need. Either way, honestly, it's fine, because say 10 years from now, someone was like, I don't like these Dakota Digital gauges. I want to go back to what the original car had, maybe another owner or something like that. You can, there's tons of companies that make the harnesses. So you can get another harness that's, a reproduction, and then plug it in and plug all your stuff in, and everything will work just fine. Honestly, this car's getting pretty old at this point. The circuits are pretty brittle. All the covers and stuff over the wires, everything's getting kind of stiff now. They're still pliable, so at this point everything's fine, but 10, 20 years from now, this is probably going to get pretty brittle, and you're probably going to want to change those circuits anyways, just to keep from burning the car to the ground. So it's kind of that point where you want to make that decision. Now, if you do decide to remove the harness and remove all those circuits, I would suggest, having a little bit of knowledge in wiring. That's kind of the more experienced side of it, rather than just taking the circuits that you don't need and winding them up, putting them in the back of the dashboard there. This is going to be, you really kind of got to know what you're doing. because if you start removing stuff that you're not supposed to remove, obviously things aren't going to work right. One of the other things I noticed is that I have a circuit in here that's got a broken wire. It looks like somebody cut it. It's over here. It goes to the windshield wipers. So and then when I talked to the owner, basically what he was telling me was, he said that yeah, the wipers would never park. So you could turn them on and they would shoop, 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 and then when you turned them off, wherever you turned it off at, it would stop. They wouldn't park. Basically, it's that circuit right there. So I'm going to repair that for him. So the wipers will actually park after they're done. So this part is going to get interesting. So let me get into this. I'm going to get the harness out. I'll get it laid out on a table. I'll do my best to kind of explain what I'm going to do. And then from there, it's a lot of looking at the car, putting the harness back in, taking the harness back out. I like to put wire covers over everything and have it just be real clean, real nice. At the same time you're doing that, you do have to remember that you're putting a module in there that you need to wire up and everything else. So there's a lot that needs to happen kind of all at the same time. So it's more than just removing the circuits that you don't need, cleaning it up, and then, wiring in the box. You kind of have to do everything all at the same time in order for it to come out real clean, real nice. So it's a couple days worth of work, but in the end, it looks really nice. It'll be something that'll last a long time. And if someone were to get in there to, work on a circuit or do something, that they would, it wouldn't be a big rat's nest where they're trying to figure out what goes where. So it's going to be interesting. Let me get into this, and then I'll get back with you and kind of show you where I'm at. All right, we're back, and I got the harness out of the car. So, at this stage, YouTube is your friend. So if you're not sure how the lock cylinder comes out, or the connector on the back of the light switch comes out, rather than just ripping and tearing on it, type it into Google. There's somebody that's put a video out that will show you how to do it. The rest of this stuff, at this stage in the process, you're going to want a wiring diagram. Because, once you pull all these apart, I've got a good idea on where they go back together, but I've got a good idea on how they go back together, but you want to verify, obviously, make sure that you're putting everything together right. The things that I didn't have to disconnect or didn't have to take out, I left. You'll see like this little thing here, this thing here with the wires hanging out of it, ignition module, the blinker relay, that kind of stuff. So, and leave in as much as you can if you're going to go this route. Now, if you're not going to go this route and you're just going to tie back whatever you're not going to use, you're going to be at a different stage, so you can kick back, relax, and get your mind blown on this side of it, because this side's the more advanced side. So now basically what I'm going to do is I've got a couple different kinds of lights in here. I've got the lights for the idiot lights. I've got the background lights. I've got all kinds of different kinds of light that go into that cluster. So now it's determining what does what, right? So I need to know, which one is the temperature too hot light. Then I can remove that circuit because we're not going to use that circuit anymore. And the oil pressure light, basically a light that tells you that you have no oil pressure. Don't need that anymore. Now keep in mind that you can utilize those circuits to do something that you need to do on the outside of the car. So just trimming those off at the bulkhead harness, is probably going to hurt you. You really want to put a game plan together at this point in the game to know what circuits you don't need anymore and what circuits you can repurpose to do something that you need it to do. So like the oil pressure light, we know we're putting an oil pressure gauge in this car. So the idiot light that says you have no more oil pressure, you don't need. But we can still utilize that circuit to tell us the pressures that we do need. So keep that in mind. Don't just snip all the circuits out of here because you're like, oh, well, I have a different kind of oil pressure gauge now. You could have still used the wire, and it would have looked nice and clean going through the bulkhead harness. So keep that in mind. So at this stage, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to pull the harness apart completely just yet. I want to leave as much of the shape of the harness in place as I can at this point. That's helping me to determine, basically where a lot of this stuff is located in the car. Now I took it out so I know, where this stuff goes. This is here, this goes under. This was actually attached to the back of the gauges, so I need to make a little bracket for that. This was over here next to the gauges. These plugged into the back of the gauges, that kind of stuff. The yellow one, wherever that one, this one, the back of the gauge. So keeping this together right now at this stage is something that I want to do, even though I am going to redo this. I'm going to wrap it up nice in a different type of harness wrap, so it looks a little bit more modern. So that's something to think about too. Don't just blow it all apart. It's going to make life a little bit harder on you. One of the things I recommend for newbies to this would be to obviously take a lot of pictures as you're taking it out of the car. Take pictures of stuff like this. Who knows what plugged into that, right? This thing too. You got a couple of wires hanging out of it. Where do these wires go? Take pictures of that. The wiring diagram is going to help you with that, but you can save yourself a lot of headache just by taking some pictures of that. As you take the old gauges out, make reference as to where in the gauge cluster did this plug. Now on the back of the gauge cluster, you don't know. It doesn't tell you what it is that you're unplugging this out of. However, if it's right behind the fuel gauge, then it's probably for the fuel gauge. If it's right behind the, what's the other one that's in there? Fuel and I don't know. I can't remember what the other one is. Anyways, that's obviously probably going to go to the one that it's next to. So all those things will help you. And then lastly, for the new people to this, get a table like this, maybe even a bigger one, and lay the harness out like it was in the car, and then you can tape the harness down, and then write on that piece of tape where that part of the harness went. In electrical engineering, we called it a breadboard. Basically, what it was is a big table that was wire meshed. And that wire mesh table allowed you to zip tie. So I know this whole circuit goes into this space over here. So I could zip tie that. I could zip tie this circuit down to the board, and then I knew, okay, that's where it branched off at. So I need to make a little branch when I do my wrap. Same thing with this. It's got this big branch. I know it goes back, and then I know this comes off and goes down over to the multi-function switch underneath the column. So this is going to sit in the car like this. And so I'm going to go ahead and zip tie it down to the table like that. Of course, with this type of table, you can't zip tie to it. However, what you can do is just take a little bit of duct tape and duct tape it down. If you want to make a breadboard, they're really easy to do. Just metal frame, expanded steel, and then tack weld all the edges together, and then you got yourself a breadboard. Then you can zip tie all your wiring down to how you had it in the car, and then that, like I said, that's really nice for helping you to know where your junctions are, where you need to wrap your harness, and then you're going to have a leg come out. It helps. So those are all just helpful tips to help you kind of organize and keep organized. the harness. So with that said, I'm going to go pull the wiring schematic for this car. I'm going to go pull the wiring schematic, and I'm going to start just decoding the harness. At this point, what I'm going to do is just go through and figure out what circuits I don't need anymore, which ones are dedicated dash lights, don't need those, and then I'm going to mark them. And then basically what I'm going to do at that point is I'm going to take my module, and then I'm going to see in this module what I need. So I know I need fuel, I need oil, I need water, I need speed, tack, power in, consistent power, ground, dimming, check engine, don't need, brake light, I need a brake light switch, high beam, left, right, 4x4 we don't need, gear 1 wire don't need, cruise don't need. So I'll go through and I'll figure out which ones I do need out of this, and then see which wires I can utilize out of the stock harness now, and then what wires I can repurpose that are in the stock harness, and then what wires I need to add to the harness to obtain all of the circuits necessary for this. Once all that's done, I can wrap the harness up real nice. Usually when I wrap, I like to start up by the bulkhead. I'll wrap the harness, and as I go, I'll kind of take it back to the car, put it in, make sure the bends in the harness are correctly, and the little legs coming out of the harness are going to the right items in the right manner, which is a lot of putting it in, taking it out, putting it in, taking it out. When you put it in and you're not plugging everything in, you're just setting it in place. With a harness set in place in the right place, it should point exactly where it has to go. So that's the main thing. Now I can tell you that in this car, at bare minimum, you would have to take the harness, because the harness went in front of this brace right here, and with the gauges that go in, they need every bit of this space. So at very minimum, you would have to move the harness to the other side of this brace in order to make it fit, regardless of which style you decide to do. And you can see there's still a few circuits left in the car. There's radio, there's a heater. These are the circuits that go to the back of the car. You have multifunction down there, brake switch. So there's still a few circuits that are in the car. I thought about taking the radio out. That's why I pulled the knobs off it. But then I was like, nah, I really don't need to take it out. So something you think about, you always test fit when you get past the stage. So basically what I did was I built the gauges, and then I stuck the gauges in, and then I noticed, oh, hey, they won't go all the way in because that harness lays in front of this area right here. Now I pushed the harness down as far as I could get it, and I did get the gauges to go in, but pinching the harness in that area, not a good idea. So you'd definitely probably be looking at removing at least this side of the harness and putting it behind this piece here. Now, the other thing I'd like to show you is the, sorry, let me get a light here so you can see what I'm talking about. So you notice back here, you can get it into such a way where you're not gonna, well, yeah, you can kind of see it. So right back there is a steering brace that runs straight across. There's nothing really up there. There's the wiper arms and that kind of stuff, but right close up here to this little hoop, there's nothing here. Completely open area. So that is where I'm going to mount my module. Right behind the cluster, up above the steering column, so we're not going to have to deal with any wires hanging down. You're not going to have to try and fit the module like up in here or something like that. Really, once the module is sat, you should never have to touch it again. So up there in that spot where you're never going to see it is the perfect spot for it, because if there's any problem with the gauges, you're going to pull the face of the gauges off anyways. There's your module. You'll know exactly how to get to it. Real easy to get to, real easy to see. You're sitting upright. You're not trying to lay up underneath the dashboard. Those are all things to consider, and those are all things you want to plan out before you go installing this. So, okay, let me get to the wiring schematic and then decoding this harness, and then I'll get back with you and I'll show you what I determined and how I determined and all that kind of stuff. Basically break it all down for you so that you can see the process. Okay, I'm down here at the harness again still. I'm going to be here for a while. So one of the things I noticed was that the circuit right here for the cigarette lighter was eliminated. When I pulled the shrink tube back, it looks like it overheated and melted. So I'm going to repair that circuit and hook the cigarette lighter back up. So I figured now was a good time to kind of show you how I do wiring. Not that this is the only way or anything else. This is just the way I was taught. And just to give you a good idea how long I've been doing wiring, that's a spool of solder from Radio Shack. I don't know how many of you remember Radio Shack, but that's a good idea how long I've been doing this. So let me get you down here. Let me see. I'm going to line you up. This part, I want to make sure that you got the you're right on where I need you to look. Okay. Let me get you down here. So it's this circuit here. So let me point you right over there. Now it might be a little difficult. That's about as close as I can get you. And I don't think I can zoom with this. So I don't think that's too bad. So basically what you want to do is you want to clean up the ends of the circuit, whichever circuit, both ends. Pick the correct wire for this application. I went for 16 gauge. I could go a little bit smaller, but odds are the cigarette lighter is not going to get used in this car. So you're going to take your circuit and the other circuit, and you're just going to, you're never going to twist them. They're just straight stranded on this side. You're just going to push the strands together. So you're going to line them up, if I could see, there we go. And you're just going to press them into each other, just like that. So now they're just pressed into each other. They're not perfect. One's probably overlapping the other one a little bit more. Whatever, doesn't matter. Then you're going to take, this is some battery cable. I just chopped, an end, made a decent length. And you're going to take one strand of that battery cable, pull it off. Now I'm right-handed, so I do everything right-handed. So with my left hand, I'm going to hold one piece of that strand against the left side of that circuit that I'm repairing, and just holding that with my thumb. Then I'm going to take this strand and I'm going to wrap it around that circuit. I'll let that drop back a little bit. You want to kind of be delicate with this because easy to pull the wires apart. And if you do, you just start all over again. And you wrap and wrap and wrap. And that's it. And then if you feel like you didn't get enough on that one side, you can take that wrap from this side and just go ahead and close that down. So basically what you're doing is you just created like a C-clamp for your wire. Now what you can do is you can solder those two together. So let me get my soldering iron here. Clean the tip off. And then my solder. I'm just going to drip a little bit of solder right on the end of this. And then I'm just going to hold that on the bottom, heat that circuit up. And you can see when it takes, there it goes. And that's all you need. And then you can just get that little excess off right there. If you got a solder sucker, you can use that. I don't know where mine is. So you just touch it like that, and it'll eventually come off. So it doesn't take much. And then most people would trim the ends of that wrapped wire. But this is kind of the cool part, and the reason why I use battery cable for wire. I can take and unspool this now. Right there where it puddled up, it's stuck, but and you just kind of, usually it comes off a little easier than this. Of course, when I try and do it on camera is when it's not going to. And then I got a little sharp nub hanging out right there, so I got these little pair of pliers. I'll just smash that nub down. Come on, there we go. It's just a little piece of that wire hanging out. Just don't want any sharp edges because it'll poke through your shrink tube. A little bit of that wire hanging out right there. Let me see if I can grab it with the plier. Oh, still there. Usually it comes off a lot cleaner than this. Of course, you know, I try and teach somebody something and show them on camera, and then it's all a big ball of mess. But that's pretty much it. Good way to solder two pieces of wire together. I always try and do solder because you're going to get a much better connection with solder. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of this fabric tape and then just wrap that spot. Don't want to put a lot on there, just enough to knock down any of those sharp edges. Of course, because those sharp edges are what's going to poke through your shrink tubing. And then as far as what I use for shrink tubing is I just go to Harbor Freight. This is marine heat shrink tubing. It's cheap, 42 piece. You get various sizes. You notice a lot of the stuff in here is Harbor Freight. So I'll pick a size tubing that should fit over that little piece. Don't need a lot, just a little bit. Slip it on your wire. Now if you're terminating the last final part of this wire, of course you want to put your shrink tubing on there first, but that'll work. And then that's that. That's how I repair circuits. Now with that, and the reason I use the marine is because it has a little bit of glue in it. And so when it shrinks down, it heats up, the glue oozes out, and it seals the circuit so that moisture and that kind of stuff can't get into it. Now on the inside of the car, you're probably not going to get any moisture. It's not going to be that big of a deal. But still, you know, I mean, overkill, at least you don't have to worry about it. So, and then now we have a repaired circuit for the cigarette lighter, which nowadays people would just use it for, you know, charging their phone or something like that. I don't know. So, but that's a good way to repair circuits. Since I got you here, I might as well show you what I got going on thus far with the harness. Get your pointer back over here. So again, this side of the harness over here was the firewall. There's not much I'm really doing over here. I'm just kind of cleaning it up, going through. I got the wiring diagram for the car, so I know what all the circuits do, where they go. So now what I'm doing is I'm just kind of laying stuff out. These are door pin switches. And then I'm temporarily wrapping the harness in a few spots so that I can manage where I want the circuits to go in the end. Obviously, this is the side that I'm modifying. So this is the side that I'm really going to pay a lot of attention to. But like I was saying before, you want to pay attention to the circuits and what circuits you have and which circuits you're going to eliminate, because honestly, I'm not going to really get rid of much of this. This is water temp. That one will probably change a little bit, but at least I have a circuit that goes outside of the car. We have right turn signal, need that one. Oil pressure, don't really need the oil pressure that it's gonna, but I need the circuits. So I know those are oil pressure circuits. I know where they're located on the engine, easy to find. High beam, you know, those gauges do have a little blue light that come on to show high beam. There's your circuit for your high beam. What else we got? Temp, went over that one. We got generator. I need to look to see if the Dakota Digital actually work with a generator system or not. Now the owner did tell me, he's like, look, if it doesn't work with the generator, put an alternator on the car. I don't really care because we're going to that big motor that's going to be alternator anyways. So he said if we have to do it, let's just do it now and get it over with. So no big deal. More door pin switches. These are consistent voltage regulator. So this is consistent regulated voltage. This is the backlighting. So these are all the backlighting that was for the gauges before. You can see it had a connector here. There was more backlighting, but I just disconnected all that. The two that are still here. So technically, all I need to do with this is cut the circuit probably back here, eliminate this whole half of it, and then this backlight will plug into my module for dim. So right there, that's where I could plug into that. I believe I have to go through it again, but yeah, I think that's how I could do that. And then what should work is my dimmer switch, which, oh, it's over there. But the dimmer switch hooks into here because this is the light switch. So funny enough, in case you don't really know older cars, this is the fuse panel. 1, 2, 3, 4 fuses, you know. Looks like maybe it might have had an option for a 5th, which was a clock, which this car doesn't have the clock. So, and then this connects to the light switch, and that's it. So that's your fuse panel right there underneath your light switch. Back in the day, there wasn't much, huh? So we have lights, we have fuel, need that one. That one just plugs right into there on fuel. And then left turn, same with that one plugs right in. This is a ground circuit. So that's pretty much where I'm at. That's kind of where we're at. Another couple days on this and it should be in the car. I know Wednesday the owner's going to show up. He's bringing a new intake manifold, a Ford Performance intake manifold, some lifters because this car kind of ticks a little bit when you first fire it up. The lifters are going flat. So that's what happens when a car sits around a lot. Doesn't get ran. So he's going to change the lifters, put an intake manifold on it. At that same time, I'm going to put the cooling and that kind of stuff into it because I talked to him and told him, hey, I got to open the cooling system anyways. Why don't you come do that while I'm doing that? That way you don't have to open it up, you know, multiple times. So that's why he's doing that. So hopefully Wednesday I can pretty much have this car buttoned up. We can see how the gauges work. Thursday, Friday, kind of go through and do the calibration. I need to get through this car quickly because I got to get to my car and I still got to get to the 7-liter, which I have a lot of video on that car. Not sure. I have probably about 3 episodes worth of video. I just need to process it and then put the videos out there. So, but anyways, that's going to do it for me today. There's quite a bit of video on this one, so we'll probably call this part 2, the start, and then we'll probably do like a a part 3 and a part 4 of this car until it's done at least. So I hope you learned something today on some of this stuff. Maybe you're thinking about doing Dakota Digital, and you know, don't let this discourage you, because it's really not as bad as it looks. You don't have to go this route. You can go the easier route, which is just wrap the circuits up behind the dashboard and put a little zip tie on them. So I'm just kind of a little bit crazy and like doing stuff my own way. So, but if you have any questions on anything, please email me, Daniel at bumwithawrench.com. Until next time, I'll see you guys.